You're listening to Second Cut. This is the weekly podcast from thefilmmagazine.com, where we talk about topics in film theory, criticism, and history through film reviews and discussion. I'm Jacob, and I'm the one who finally knocked out this intro.
Woo! I'm Sam. We're talking about 2023 in film. I'm the one who's watched about 85 new releases this year. I'm not going to be talking about them all here.
And I'm Kieran. I'm the one that thinks that Jacob's intro will be an essay by the next few weeks. And also has got just coming up on 40 releases from this year, and I'm fairly sure December will be mostly cramming in the ones that I haven't got around to watching so far this year, if I can,
Got to.
Yeah, I just missed watching Godzilla -1. I was going to go yesterday, but I didn't have time, so I'll be there this weekend.
Yeah, I'm hoping to catch it when it comes to local cinema, but it's a bit hit and miss where I am, really. It'll either be there or it just will never come here.
Yeah, and where I am, it's kind of sometimes you get some things that are getting here, but sometimes you don't. So, for example, the Dr. Jekyll that came out, the Hammer film, didn't get within about sort of 2.5 hours of me, and I'm really annoyed that I can't find Eileen, the new thriller with Anne Hathaway in it. Anywhere near me. The nearest one's probably about 2.5 hours away. So it's okay, I'm going to find it somewhere else. The joys.
There's also a lot of movies that I watched that I forgot. I forgot Megan came out in 2023, but also I don't remember anything about It Lives Inside.
I didn't get around to It Lives Inside, so I won't ask you what it was about. Something living inside, probably.
Surely.
Yeah, there are some things, looking through my list, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a thing, apparently.
I think we'll be talking a bit more generally about the kind of year in film, kind of how it was in the end, how it rates in comparison to other years and everything as we go through. And we've all got an underseen kind of gem that we want to highlight later. But do you think we should start with a question we've been asked by Holly on Twitter? Best and worst films of the year.
Sure.
Let's just knock these ones out. How are we doing this? Are we alternating? We should
Kieran,
discuss this.
What was your best film and your worst film?
I don't know about my best film. My worst film, well, considering in terms of what I've rated on Film Magazine, at least the ones I've watched, Assassin Club from May, which I think is only the second film ever on the website to get 0 out of 24 as it was then, which would still be 0 out of 5 stars now. There is literally just nothing about it that is indeed memorable or a thing, or Sam Neill got a paycheck, Naomi Rapace got a paycheck. Great. I hope they got help towards their kids' college funds. Not that they needed it, and the cast, the crew got paid, so it helped put food on their tables. A bit like Taika Waititi's now said about he's doing with Thor. It's like, I'll feed my kids with this. It's work.
Yeah,
that's the biggest praise I can give it. Thankfully, it's kept some people in the film industry.
What was your best?
Got to pick one, even if you haven't got one concrete. Just.
I have no idea what the best, because there's also a difference between best and one that I enjoyed the most, if you know what I mean.
The one that you enjoyed that you also think could be among the best.
I will again stick my neck out and say, it's probably a tie-up between two of the July blockbusters of Mission Impossible and Barbie, and I know that's oh my god, he's gone for the blockbusters once, but they're really good, and Barbie was a really good movie, and I think Mission Impossible got screwed over by the people shoving it there when they knew Barbenheimer was coming up. And apparently Tom Cruise was going around begging cinemas to put it in IMAX over Barbie and Oppenheimer, and apparently IMAX told Paramount this would happen, and Paramount went, no, this is our date. So yes, it got screwed over by a lot of things in the budget going out because of COVID, because they essentially paid their crew through COVID, which salute to them, and probably Tom Cruise is doing it out of his own pocket, but it was genuinely a good movie. Not as good as Fallout, because Fallout was bordering on perfect, but it was a very good film, and possibly just takes my top of the year.
Fair.
Sam, what about you?
Well, my best of the movie, my best movie of the year is probably comes as no real surprise, was Across the Spider-Verse, because I'm a big Into the Spider-Verse stan, and I thought this was it's one of those rare films where it's kind of, ask kind of how often do like truly like game-changing kind of films, their sequels, how often do they actually deliver? And this was like they did Empire Strikes Back with Spider-Verse, basically. It's like it's bigger, it's darker, it's more expansive and character-driven, and I cannot wait for how they tie everything up. I really hope they don't screw it up in the third part. I don't think they will. But
does Miles Morales carry an elderly man around on his back?
He should do, shouldn't he? But yeah, so I love Spider-Verse, and I'll also got to give a quick shout out to Ryan Lane and Return to Seoul, for kind of different reasons. Ryan Lane, which did get a brief, I think got a brief cinema release over here, but most places it ends up on either Disney or Hulu, depending on your territory. And it was just one of those great kind of, for me, like a great kind of modern rom-com, and kind of very firmly kind of rooted in a real place, South London in this case. And it was just really charming and funny, and romantic as you want for the best ones. So, and Return to Seoul was just a really kind of interesting take on like alienation and being kind of caught between worlds, between cultures, and it's really kind of unpredictable and kind of interesting. I couldn't really kind of predict where that one was going. So, all three of those were great for me.
Well, what about worst?
Well, I probably don't watch enough truly bad movies. Maybe that's a good thing, because I was looking for like the bottom of my log for the year, and most of them are kind of, I think I've only got one star film from this year, which obviously going to be my worst, but the rest of them are kind of mediocre. They're kind of like 2-star, 2.5-star kind of things.
The trouble with you is, unlike me, you don't get offended by how bad films are enough.
No. I seldom do. That's fair. Yes, it's my worst by quite some distance was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which
I somehow haven't seen it, and I'm upset.
I also have not seen it.
From such like an audacious kind of attention-grabbing kind of title, you think there'd be at least something interesting in there, but no, it's not even bad in an entertaining way. It's just dull and unpleasant and really sloppily put together. I had a terrible time watching it.
I know what I'm watching after this stream.
Oh God, please don't. Just don't.
It's a modern slasher movie.
Yeah. And the couple of bigger studio films again really didn't work for me, So again, these aren't right terrible by any means, but they're just really kind of uninspiring, So the latest Transformers: Rise of the Beast, that was probably
that came out this year.
Yeah, that was one of my more disappointing films. I mean, mostly because I'm a Transformers guy, and especially Beast Wars from the 90s. That was like my kids' franchise. So they kind of they screwed that up for me, and I was a bit offended by that. And it's just, it doesn't have like the heart that you need to kind of make you care, and it's all very visually muddy, and the action's kind of on autopilot, and it's just didn't work for me at all. And I really didn't like the new Little Mermaid either. And I've been a fan. I've been a defender of some of the Disney remakes in the past. I don't think they're all terrible or necessarily a bad idea, but this one was just really just Disney at its most kind of vapid and lazy, and just draining all of the charm and everything that made like the original film work basically out of it. I'll give Halle Bailey a pass as Ariel. She was good performance, but everything around her was just made me sad, made me depressed.
Oh, yeah. You don't love when a Disney movie makes you depressed. For my best, I mean, now I've had time to think about it. So my runner-up, and by the way, we're going to talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer later, so I'm kind of passing on those, but I mean, they're in my top 10.
Me too.
I'm going to mention Asteroid City. It's Wes Anderson's new one, and it's really weird. It's a Wes Anderson movie. If you like Wes Anderson, you're going to like it. So,
yeah. I mean, just to kind of cut us in there a little bit, I think Wes Anderson, I'm an agnostic. I'll say there are some of his films I love. I mean, just like his last one, I really enjoyed French Dispatch. I thought that was wonderful. This one, I did find it quite hard to key into the tone. I thought it was kind of deadpan, even by his standards, and just everyone spoke like they're from another planet, even the ones that aren't aliens. You know, I found this one challenging. Can't say I was disappointed in kind of that I'd seen it, that it wasn't a waste of time. It was interesting, but I couldn't really quite get my eye in.
Oh, I loved all the character stories. I loved their deadpan weirdness. I like Jason Schwartzman and Wes Anderson. I read today somebody said he is the least objectionable Coppola. Some insider. Apparently all of them are like, you know, like you'd expect people who are American sort of Hollywood royalty to be, except for Schwartzman. He's nice. I can't verify any of that, but I read it today. So that's my runner-up, just because I love Wes Anderson, and I thought it was fun. Also, I'll throw out Infinity Pool. That was another weird one, and I like Baby Cronenberg.
That was great.
But yeah, for best movie of the year, I mean, I'm going to go Killers of the Flower Moon.
Who could have predicted?
Here's my hot take that Joe disagreed with when I posed it to him. I think this is Scorsese's best movie. The reason is, Goodfellas, amazing movie. I think it's something that feels personal to him. As like somebody in New York, somebody who's running around with sort of tough guys with nicknames. You know, I feel like if you're around people with nicknames in New York, you're probably a sort of streetwise fellow. So yeah, that's good. Taxi Driver, really good, very innovative, very, influenced by other things. But this is really polished Scorsese. I did not think The Irishman was the best it could have been. And he went ahead and just took his two iconic actors, put them in great roles for the two of them, where Leo is kind of playing like a dull-witted sort of fellow, and De Niro's playing someone who doesn't have to like do a lot of physical action. It's all just very emotional and evocative in the way that he is able to keep his emotions subdued, but also be terrifying, and and part of that comes with the writing, but also his performance is great. And also it has the story about the indigenous group in Oklahoma, so it's just a bit more meaningful in general because it's not something we learn about in school. They don't teach us about many of the tragedies that were inflicted on American Indians. They keep them sort of behind a veil of like, yeah, so this happened. I mean, we did the Trail of Tears, but they don't necessarily condemn it. So the way he used like native actors and stuff like that, like it's a really good movie. It's a really good telling of a fascinating story. After the story is over, he shows a sort of like true crime reenactment.
That's your favorite
for radio.
bit of the movie, isn't it?
It is. It's so good. Like seeing how they do the radio drama. It's very inspiring as someone who does radio stuff. So I love it.
And he was just happy, and Jacob was just happy to see Scorsese at the end deliver the final lines of the movie.
Oh yeah, and also both of those movies have to do with like creation art, in some sort of way. So I'm always a sucker for that too.
And your least favorite, the worst movie of the year.
So worst movie honorable mention is The Pope's Exorcist. Kieran, I know you saw that too. But my
It's
worst,
so not good.
My worst is Sound of Freedom. Because, okay, so there's a movie called Nefarious that was another really didactic Christian movie. So, like, yeah, it was super boring. It's not good. But Sound of Freedom was seen by way, way more people. It had a $14.5 million budget. It made $247 million worldwide. Nearly 248.
So did they release it outside the States?
They did. It grossed, let's just look here, 2.7 million in the UK.
Jesus.
27,000 in East Africa. 12 million in Mexico. So it is, in theory, about something good. You know, sex trafficking is bad. But it's about, like, weird sex trafficking where kids are kidnapped and taken to, I don't know. It's insane. Like, it seems like QAnon fiction, and it actually is. The guy in charge of the the organization that exists in reality, they fight human trafficking. The guy has law enforcement experience, and they claim to do these, like, raids and take kids back. And yeah, they don't have a lot of evidence of what they do, where their money goes. They prop up QAnon conspiracies. So the movie itself isn't terribly ideological without knowing the outside, you know, coding that is put into it. You have to really be familiar and immersed within weirdo conservative Christian conspiracy theory culture to get why it's not just a happy-go-lucky movie about the FBI going extrajudicious to save, like, Honduran kids or something.
It's currently on Box Office Mojo. It's currently tracking worldwide the 20th highest grosser of the year. Although actually looking at the list on Box Office Mojo, I'm not sure how much information from sort of, like, you know, Chinese domestic films and stuff like that is on here, because I can see Pathan is currently tracking at 36 with 128 mil. But then I can pretty much see nothing else from, like, outside of kind of.
It may not have been screened in China, because aren't they limited on the number of non-Chinese films they have?
But what I'm saying is that there's no kind of Chinese films that I can find. So it may be that there's a Chinese film that kind of within China was very well regarded and not released anywhere else that got, like, you know, 800 million. We just don't have the information for it, because the only two films I can see within the top 50 highest grossing of the year, according to Box Office Mojo so far, are Pathan, and then you've got The Boy and the Heron, currently at 84 million, which I don't think is out in the UK yet either, which I'm very upset about. So
I think we get it Christmas Eve, from what I remember.
Yeah. So when
someone in Taiwan or Hong Kong is now going to Google weird American conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So when we track the numbers, we're using Box Office Mojo, but at the same time we have to assume we don't have all the numbers, because let's be honest, in the top 50 films, I can only find one from India, and we know the Indian market is massive. So, you know, it's very likely, take these numbers with a pinch of salt. When we say, oh, it's the 30th highest grossing film of the year, that's the numbers that we know, or that we have access to here, but they may be off.
Yeah, for Asia, it just has Australia, New Zealand, Russia, Taiwan, Hong Kong. So I'm guessing it was not in China.
Yeah, so there will be lots of places that we don't have the numbers for, which obviously could skew kind of global perspectives. And that's the kind of thing that when we're thinking about, like, this year, I was looking at the films that I've seen that have come out this year, and, like, most of them are English language. You know, I'm double checking down my list now, and I've seen 1, 2, 3.
I would be the same if not for Mubi. Thank God for my Mubi subscription, because I've tried to, like, keep up with, like, anything new that comes on that, you know. Keep up to date.
Yeah, I don't have Mubi. I've got 4. One of them is a short. So and two of them were cheap on Shudder. So most of the films we're going to talk about are very Anglo-centric, and we apologise for anyone else. That's just how it is. So realistically, here, unless you go seek it out or unless you go to a festival, they just don't get the screenings.
I've got 8 in my top 30, not in English, which isn't great, to be honest. Because I feel like I should have seen more.
So welcome to our world. I feel like I should have seen more for everything.
Going off the best films, 2 of those were Barbie and Oppenheimer. They spawned the Barbenheimer phenomenon, and to discuss that, Liam asks, what other combos like Barbenheimer would you like to see in the future? Mine in 2024 is Garfuriosa, when Furiosa and Garfield released the same weekend.
I haven't seen what's releasing when, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't even know what's coming out next year.
What's one you want to see?
I don't know what's coming out next year, to be honest.
If you could just make one.
Something's got a double bill with Paddington, because that'd be adorable. So,
is there a Paddington 3 coming out?
Yes.
When's it coming out?
Just hang on. Paddington in Peru, I think it's called. Paddington.
I was going to say, because we missed the Saw Patrol that we had in September with Saw and Paw Patrol.
What about a Kin movie? And it's Tay Kin. Okay,
it's out in November, so you could almost. Can you do a pun with Nosferatu's out in December?
I thought Nosferatu was coming out earlier than that. Is it coming out next November?
It's coming out end of next year, I think they've announced. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Promise we're going to match up the schedules, and we've got to think of a good pun.
It's too bad we can't do Nosferatu Dune. Since they'll be too far apart.
Yeah. I was going to say Peru and Nosferatu end with you, but we can't really match that. Nosferatu Peru,
Maybe a movie called Yuletide or something will come out. Yule. No.
We can but hope. And then we always have the ones, Olivia, Happy Death Day 3. Will we now ever get Scream 7? Probably not. Until it's been sold about 5 people.
Yeah, it seems doubtful on the Scream front, doesn't it?
Yeah, at least for the foreseeable future.
While we look around for more hilarious jokes, what were your general thoughts on Barbie and or Oppenheimer?
Well, I did love them both. I didn't double bill them. I saw them about 10 days apart, I think. But yeah, I enjoyed them both very much for different reasons. Very different experiences as well. I think I saw Oppenheimer twice, I think, and both times in a packed cinema, and so the audience kind of enraptured by everything. Barbie, I saw my friend James, and we were the only guys on a row full of teenage girls, basically, and they gave us all a bit of a strange look when we kind of squeezed past them to get to our seats. But then they thought that they kind of got and said, oh, well, maybe they're a gay couple, yeah. So maybe we're a bit more comfortable with these 2 guys in their 30s sitting in the middle of us if they're an item,
and yeah, it is a 12. It's not like a PG movie ever, so it gave away that there was going to be some content in there that was not suitable for kids, like 5-year-olds.
Yeah, but that was like a really good kind of atmosphere, though. Just people, obviously, all girls especially, kind of really getting into it, and laughing at a lot of things that I probably didn't hit me as hard, but I'm sure they're funnier too. If you're going for like similar stuff, yeah, it was. I did really enjoy them both for different reasons. I mean, spinning off a bit from this. It's interesting that only 2 films have made $1 billion this year, and I was rooting for Oppenheimer to be the third. It was so close. It's on like 900 and something, but
950. And this doesn't account for I don't know if it's on streaming services yet or kind of rent from Amazon kind of things, but I don't think they are added to the total. So it probably has made over $1 billion, but not in terms of the cinema ticket prices.
Yeah, I mean. Yes, so I think studios maybe need to get used to the idea that $1 billion kind of isn't the norm anymore. For a big blockbuster, that's how much money you're going to plow into it. you got to maybe they'll lower their expectations a bit in terms of like, what it'll kind of pay out at the other end.
Yeah. Well, real quick, because Kieran, I don't know if you're going to talk about it. I'm not. Sam, what did you think of Marvel making way less money than normal?
Did we not predict this? I don't think we'll see Nia DaCosta do a movie for another 5 years.
Yeah, which is a pity. I'm obviously I'm very disappointed in them for essentially chucking her under the bus, but it's a known tactic, big studios, especially if it's if it's a woman or a member of a minority, in the front and center, it's easy to blame, those who are more vulnerable than you are, when you're big, in your ivory towers, just.
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on the actual film. Okay. I've just seen the backlash. I will be doing our the Film Magazine's roundup of all the comic book films of the year that Joe normally does, but he said last year that he was done last time after doing the year which had Black Adam in it. I think he was he was praying for mercy. So I'll be doing that round this year. And looking back, I find it quite interesting that both Marvel and DC seem to. There's a lot of debate at the minute about as kind of the is the superhero fatigue setting in, as this kind of bubble burst, I don't know if it has or not, whether it's just been they've just had a string of kind of films that haven't quite worked for a variety of reasons. From The Flash been the most unlucky and misguided film in a long time in terms of like how much it's lost their studio. The lead form, doing what they did and then sticking by them, and then having to rejig it multiple times, in the various different iterations of the DC universe. That wasn't ideal. And Marvel seems to have overreached themselves somewhat. Kind of the last few films and TV shows they've done. I don't have the same appetite for their kind of their universe anymore, or whether it's just the stories aren't getting people on side. They're not kind of people aren't as invested in the characters and kind of what they're going through anymore. With Marvel this year, you had the goods. You had Guardians 3 for me really did live up to expectations. I thought it was a really, really Guardians 3 was good.
Yeah, it was a really satisfying finale and kind of conclusion to that story and those characters. But then you had Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania and the Marvels, which are both, I don't think even I would say they're bad. They're just a bit uninspiring, like a lot of their most recent ones. They just don't. There's not enough of a draw, and you just got feeling that they should be better. They should be showing you more stuff you haven't seen before. If they're still going to get you kind of into cinemas, to watch each of these new ones that comes out. So
Quantumania wasn't awful, but I have memories of kind of watching it, and it's almost as if somebody kind of went, "Okay, watch the other Marvel movies.
Yeah,
here is your plot line. They all end up in the quantum realm and have to escape. Yeah. And you've got a week to write the script, and this is the script they came up with. It's just the trouble is now that there is a phrase cookie cutter, but everything just feels the same. Like there may be something that's fundamentally different, but the vibe is exactly the same as we got before. It's just
I didn't watch any of them. And I hope they continue to fail until they only make X-Men movies.
I was considering going for the Flash only for Keaton, but I've heard that even that's not enough to save the movie.
No, it's. And
to be honest, I wonder what would have happened if they'd have rebranded the Flash and called it Batman Returns.
Yeah.
I guess we could also really quickly answer James's question. Why does DC keep trying with their universe? Seriously, why? My answer is money.
Yeah.
My answer is Marvel have done it, therefore they have to.
Yeah. I think that they've always, for the last decade at least, they've been playing catch up, and they've tried various things, and very few of them have really worked. I I'm a bit of a Man of Steel defender. I think it's 2/3 a really good film, and then it just kind of loses it a bit towards the end when it just becomes a big grey blodge of CG. But yeah, kind of everything beyond that. I mean, well, Wonder Woman I liked. The first Shazam I quite liked as well. James Gunn's Suicide Squad the other year, I quite enjoyed that. I'll be interested what he does with it going forward, but whether he can think of something like a generally new take on these characters or something to bring audiences back. But yeah, I just think people just want something that's a bit different. If it has to be another superhero movie, then it has to be either a character they haven't seen before or a take on the characters they haven't seen before, and not just kind of recycled. And maybe just doing like 2 of these things max per year. I think it's just people feel overloaded and just overwhelmed, by the sheer amount of content.
And also, with all the streaming services as well, if you're having to pay for multiple streaming services, cost of living around the world is going up. Sometimes it's just I kind of half care. And I don't want to spend the money on this now when I've got other things going on. It's a luxury that I don't care about. And when you have so many of those films back to back, and some of them have been mediocre anyway, you're not.
Do you have almost like a running order, like a criteria when you see something coming out? Is like, this is a must-see thing in the cinema. I'll wait for this on streaming.
Let's get to that in a second, real quick. Okay. Kieran, something else that made and lost Warner Brothers movie. Thoughts on Barbenheimer?
The thing, I'm very happy for both of them. Oppenheimer is a very good film. I mean, I'm on record of slating that Nolan is not the god of cinema that everyone thinks he is, but he's still a very, very good filmmaker. Again, I'm on record of saying that. The same with pretty much all of the granddaddies that we have at the moment, a bit like Scorsese and Villeneuve and Fincher and all that lot. They are very good filmmakers, but I don't think that the titans and the gods. It's not like everything they do is automatically 100%. They're both very, very good films. The one thing that makes me laugh is the whole the 950 million or whatever it is that Oppenheimer got. A lot of people are trying to push the idea that it is purely Nolan's name that got the 950 million.
Yeah.
And I'm going, the amount of talent that's in it that's not Nolan is a start. It's an interesting idea for a biopic anyway. You were marketing it for like a year and a half before you finished the damn film. And the whole Barbenheimer phenomena anyway, people that had gone to see it, it suddenly became an event. And in a world where events are not as much of a thing, because everything goes straight to streaming, something like that, there's very possibly 500 mil might have been down to Nolan, but there's an awful lot of money there that wasn't purely down to Nolan's name. And it's amazing that nobody turned around and went, oh, Barbie got like nearly 1.5 billion. It's all down to Greta Gerwig. And it's like, well, no, that's not the case in the nicest way. And yes, it's slightly different, but it's amazing, when you've got a well-regarded director, how everything is now suddenly attributable to them. This is auteur theory in modern day, somehow. Whereas if it's the other way around, suddenly it's nothing to do with the director, If the Russo brothers come out with a new film, you're not going to say that all the money goes down to the Russo brothers, even though they made 2 of the biggest grossing films of all time. It's just not going to happen.
I'm not going to say it's purely up to Nolan, but there is an argument to be made that for people who love movies, he is a big part of it. And his name as a commercial property, the auteur, God, I forget the actual theoretical term, but like commercial image. It's like auteur's celebrity or something like that.
I would argue, again, bringing back this kind of idea of like event cinema, kind of the same thing goes for someone like James Cameron. I would say the reason kind of the second Avatar kind of smashed records again. Yes, I know as much as we were kind of not up for it. it was an event, and I don't think people are rushing back to get back to Pandora, to get back to the Blue People. It's because it's the new James Cameron film, and he's going to do something. It may not entirely work, but it'll be spectacular. It'll be it will dazzle you.
Yeah. When it comes to Nolan, he is the kind of modern auteur of commerce. That's the word I was thinking of. He's the person who is making event films for people who love movies, and that's their thing. Yeah. So, and he can appeal to mainstream audiences, and
he does. I'm not saying that Nolan's name had nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. And I'm not saying it purely is either.
Yeah, but I have seen comments from people in articles and whatever going essentially all this money and it's pretty much purely down to Nolan. And I would go, a lot of it is, not all of it. And the idea that it is all of it is ridiculous. And I very much in the comment that you can at least add, I'm going to say 100 mil, purely because it was released on the same day as Barbie and the whole Barbenheimer thing happened. And I would probably add at least another 100 mil to Barbie for that. So I reckon releasing on the same day probably gained another 200 mil.
Yeah, I loved the event. I loved Barbie. My screening, it did cut out the end though. It was as Ken and Barbie were uniting, it cut. So I had to rewatch it at home. I love both of them. I need to rewatch Oppenheimer.
Barbie does have my favorite joke of the year though, which is the "I'm not pretty" interdiction by Helen Mirren of Margot Robbie going, "I'm not stereotypically Barbie pretty," and then her cutting and going, "Note to filmmakers, Margot Robbie's not the person to cast if you want to make this point." Moving on, and it's just absolutely beautiful and brutal in every way.
Margot Robbie is really good in that movie because obviously she's very pretty, which is why she got cast as the stereotype of attractive woman that is a Barbie doll. But she nailed the nuance of the role.
She did.
The having I love that Barbie has this strange depression growing inside of her. That's such a fun way to do the movie. I kind of hope there's not a sequel, but if there is, whatever.
Yeah,
I think there will be.
It'll be a Ken spin-off.
It won't be Margot Robbie. It won't be Margot Robbie centric. Yeah, it'll be. And in fact, the sequel I want to see. I want an Alan movie. I want to see the life and times of all the Allens getting into the real world and then becoming insane.
Can we give the shout out for the most unexpected cameo of the year? More than Scorsese, which was the Rob Brydon cameo in Barbie.
Sugar Daddy Ken.
Yeah. What the hell is Rob Brydon doing here? It's almost as unexpected as Hugh Dennis in James Bond.
Yeah, and they had to point out it wasn't a sex thing. It was he holds up his pet dog. This is Sugar. I'm her daddy.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, people complain about it being just an agenda film or stuff like that. The trouble is, it's really well made. Yes, it's got an explicit agenda, but it also is a point that has to be made, and the film is made very, very well.
If people are still complaining about the point being made, then it's doing some good. It's having an impact.
Yes,
and it's normally straight white men that are making complaints as well. So
film is such a male-centric medium, as we have discussed, and will continue to discuss. So, it was cool to see a female-centric movie. That's what it is, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And unless anything radically changes in the next couple of weeks, Barbie is going to finish as the highest-grossing film of the year. And is it going to be possibly the highest-grossing, the first time that's ever happened for a female director? As well?
Yeah.
Finally, we've done it. We've done it, boys. We did it, Reddit.
Well, let's get back to this.
And if Greta Gerwig doesn't get a director nomination at the Oscars, I'm going to scream. I'm just because they've got a history of just ignoring it.
She at least needs
she will finally be the ninth nomination for a female director.
Yeah. And she's what? 2 of them?
Jane Campion. It's the only one too.
Now if she got it for Barbie.
Yes.
So let's go back to the streaming thing. I apologize for our fractal journey through 2023, but Joe asked a question that pertains to that. I was wondering what you guys think of the streaming bubble, current issues, price hikes, realization that not every streamer can have infinitely growing audiences, etc. And on the flip side of that, from Greg, which 2023 film worked best as a big screen experience? So, Sam, re-ask your question about streaming, because I think that gets at a lot of what Joe was talking about.
I can't remember what I asked about streaming now.
Sorry. It was like, what are your criteria for prioritizing it? Because
right. Yeah. Okay. So do you have like a running order? So you see like what's coming out and you think, right, I'm going to see that in the cinema. I'm going to wait for that on streaming. I might rent that because I don't want to pay. I don't want to drive myself out the house to go to the cinema for that. But I do want to see it. And then other things you just wait for, when it's free, and whatever stream stuff you already pay for. Personally, I do have that kind of. I try and see as much as I can in the cinema, and I don't agree with. Say, I'll bring my dad in here. His general take is he'll just go see blockbusters in the cinema. If it's not got something spectacular to look at, or if it's not done by a director he's a real big fan of, he's happy to wait. He doesn't go to see like kind of smaller indie dramas that he enjoys. Some people wouldn't go to the cinema to see them. He'd wait to watch them on his TV, which is fine. So there's certain really interesting indie films that I don't want to wait for, and I really want to be part of the conversation and see as soon as possible. So that's why I see those in cinema too. Kind of generally, obviously, if I'm in, if I'm invested in a franchise, I'll probably see them all, as they come out. I don't imagine there won't be like I think I'm still going to keep seeing every Marvel film that comes out, but we'll see how the
you're this far in, might as well go the whole way.
Yeah, if things keep diving up, I can't imagine ever not going to see like a Godzilla film, say, in the cinema, because they're made. The spectacle like that is made for the big screen.
Sunk Nia DaCosta fallacy. No, I was looking for something.
Yeah, So. I think streamers are worried at the minute. They're running a bit scared. I think their model clearly isn't working. They've put so much investment into kind of almost changing the landscape of the film industry, to fit this, and people are tuning out. They're they're upping the price, and people aren't renewing the subscriptions. They're only picking like the services they particularly want to see something on. For me, I've got Disney, I've got Mubi, share my dad's Amazon Prime, and I'll take out Netflix only when there's something kind of particular that I want to watch. I stopped having that just ticking over like at the beginning of this year because there just wasn't enough to keep me invested. There's a lot of talk about almost going back to like a cable model. These streamers like offering like packages, like combined packages for a lot more money than you used to pay for cable. So yeah, I don't know where that's going. And a lot of time it's like having enough stuff to keep people invest in coming back. I think again that's why Disney has put so much money into their Marvel and Star Wars TV shows, to keep kind of that kind of content mill ticking over and keep subscribers. But once you've watched them, even if they're releasing episodes week by week, once you've watched them all, are people just going to tune out? They're perfectly right to, if they've got less disposable income anyway, as the world is.
And the thing about streaming services as well, and with cinemas in general, as the world goes on and hikes go up and fuel prices go out. I mean, when I lived in Cardiff, 4 months ago, I'd got a Cineworld that was a 25 minute walk away. That was the cheapest one. I'd got an Everyman just a little bit further away if I wanted to drive to something because the timing was right. I've got an Odeon sort of maybe a 15-20 minute drive with the traffic away, max. And realistically, because it's the middle of Cardiff, you're only doing about 30 mile an hour. So the distance was only a couple of miles. And the prices are obviously going to be slightly lower because you're in a city. Therefore, there's more people vying for it. They do it to get it in. So the tickets, the Cineworld in Cardiff, were sort of, I think they were up to around £7 a ticket by the time I left. The nearest Cineworld to me now is half the size, and it's an hour drive away with decent traffic. That's one way. So even if I go to review something for like TFM, it's at least sort of 10 quid in petrol, if not sort of coming towards 15 there and back because it's a 2-hour round trip. And the ticket price is slightly more expensive anyway. It's about sort of £9 maybe with student discount I've got now. So, you know, a lot of the time I'll go, I'll review something. And it cost me about 20 quid to go for one film. Then, because it's obviously the time as well, if it's a longer film, it's like, I'm out for 5 hours, I want a drink as well. Suddenly the price starts mounting up as well. So what was costing me sort of 7-8 quid walk back in is now a vastly different experience price-wise. And I'm seeing like half the amount of films now that I would otherwise. So streaming in that sense, for people that are in more rural areas, can also be just like financially cheaper for them.
People
somehow,
with kids too.
It's like you're not spending on petrol and having to get them all at McDonald's afterwards. You know.
I mean, the next most important market for kind of studios, to aim everything towards, after like teenage boys, is families and their kids, and for everyone that works, like obviously Mario was the other film that made $1 billion this year, but you completely
which is on
understand
Netflix here.
You could understand like their parents' point of view. They kind of they love to take the kids out for the afternoon, and see a movie that they'll really like. But just the expense, just if they've got several kids, everything just mounts up. Tickets and snacks and everything
it's
else.
It's a bit like going to a concert. The concert ticket costs about 30 quid, but it's another 100 quid to get there to eat something. The T-shirt price, everything like that. It's like when you buy festival tickets. A download ticket. Well, back in the day used to be sort of 225 quid, and by the time everything's out of the way, it's normally sort of you spend around 450 quid for everything. Unfortunately, cinema is like that. If you're right next door to a cinema, the experience, in the middle of a city where the prices are probably slightly lower, is going to be vastly different to somewhere where it is remote. However, whenever I get the chance, I will go to a cinema because it's not this is where it belongs, or it's not snobbish like that, but in some ways it's nice just to force yourself to switch the phone off. And because if you've got it on a screen there, it doesn't matter how invested you are, you occasionally just what was that on Twitter that just
it's difficult to, in the world we live in, it's very difficult to fully switch off, especially watch something at home. I mean, I used to have a rule, like I was quite strict with I didn't touch the phone like throughout the film. Now, because I've probably watched a lot more than I ever did, I'll give the film like 20 minutes, whatever, and if it's not grabbing me, then I'll occasionally go to my phone. And following out with some films, I'm just like I'm reading something while having it on, kind of as like a distraction.
It's just not good, is it?
Which is normally the time where it's my fault to an extent, but I do kind of blame the film bit saying, well, you're not grabbing me at all. But equally, if this was in the cinema, I wouldn't have the option. I would have to engage with it a bit more. So,
unless it's Assassin Club.
In which case, you made me wonder if I would argue that it is where it belongs, because one thing I do like about streaming, is that it breaks down the barrier between TV and movie. So it's based more on like length and how many versus like you watch TV on TV, you watch movies in a movie theater, or you have to get like a VHS, some sort of external media to actually watch a movie. Whereas now it's all just in one place digitally. And so like maybe streaming should be its own medium. I don't know.
Hey, remember 15 years ago where Netflix was you like ordered DVDs from them?
Yes.
This was 15 years ago. Like the entire world has massively radically changed just on streaming. We blame House of Cards and Stranger Things. Really, that's what did it.
It's quite fun. The new Scott Pilgrim animation on Netflix is quite self-aware about that, because I think in the original comic and in the film, she's Ramona Fowler, she delivers Amazon parcels, but because the series ends up on Netflix, it's set in the early to mid 2000s. So of course she's delivering Netflix DVDs. So.
That's great. I mean, on the note of House of Cards, I like that it's a way for filmmakers to get financed. So, we're saying like Nia DaCosta may not get anything anytime soon. Well, maybe Netflix gives her a deal to make horror stuff, or Blumhouse and Amazon. I mean, you never know. I like that there's more places like right now Fincher, he did House of Cards. He's aligned with Netflix. That's where his stuff is going. Scorsese has partnered with Apple Movies, so did Ridley Scott. He's also worked with Netflix to do The Irishman. So it's cool to see like people you would think of it, like Scorsese. He is sort of legitimizing the practice of streaming and partnering with streamers, but he still releases his movies in cinema, which makes it I would say not the streaming medium. They are where movies belong.
Yeah. And I would assume that Scorsese, at least for something like Killers of the Flower Moon, part of the agreement was that he haggled for a certain window for things. Because I remember back in the day, 15, 20 years ago, where it used to be kind of, it was in cinemas for a certain window normally, and then it would disappear for a sort of about 3-4 months. Then it would come out on DVD, and then about 3 or 4 months later, then it would be on TV. Now that's just gone. And I even remember about 5 years ago, Netflix are thinking of launching their own TV channel, like satellite terrestrial, and it's like, have they worked out? Because even with all this choice, how many times you flicked onto Netflix or something, scrolled for 10 minutes and logged off, nothing on there.
Switch over to my other a la carte streaming service.
Or you just add a load of things to your list that you think I should see, but I don't fancy watching tonight, and then you log back off, and then you log back on the next night. So, all that depressing stuff's still on my list, but I still don't fancy watching it.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, the thing with these kind of the bigger films and streaming is that it is a place for the smaller indie films to be on there, and occasionally one breaks out. Quite often they fade into the mists that you're never going to see again. But they do have a chance there.
It makes up for the limited release windows that are either hard to get to because of the distance or because it was like just for a week.
And these smaller films as well. They're the ones that kind of very limited budget, maybe $1 million max, or very kind of independent films that go on the festival circuit, do reasonably well, sort of 15, 18 festivals, it's fairly good all the while. And most of the time you send it around the festival circuit looking for distribution. That is why you do it. And the places like Cannes is essentially, yes, it's a film festival, but the main point of a lot of the films there is a massive market there. Essentially, the distributors are there, and everyone goes trying to sell their film.
That's how they did in 2020. Was the online exhibit and buyer?
Yeah, but it's basically the most kind of high impact aspect of a place like Cannes. It's basically it's a big cattle market for for your art, basically.
So these films that have gone around kind of these festivals that have got into, had some fairly decent reviews, gone around that somehow haven't captured like a Neon or a Universal or something like that, or a Vertigo releasing, one of these guys to distribute it. Where are they going to go? But these streaming services occasionally do pick them up. So, on one hand, the streaming services, they're killing cinema, but on the other hand, they are giving life to the smaller films to give them a chance. And it's the same with we slag off the blockbusters, but at the same time, a 700 million profit off a Fast and Furious or a Mission Impossible or a James Bond, something like that, also funds 10, 15 other films single-handedly.
Marvel funds Searchlight now.
As much as we can go, this isn't cinema and stuff, the money has to come from somewhere.
What were movies that you think, or just one each, that you needed to experience on the big screen?
I would imagine. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I wasn't going to say that.
I was going to say Oppenheimer.
I was about to say that me and Kieran will probably go for the same one because the one that I needed to see on the big screen, I'm so pleased I did this year, was Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible is as well, yes. But I'm thinking specifically of the detonation sequence in Oppenheimer. You know, some films I've said before, something like Nomadland, I saw that on a big cinema screen, and I needed it to be in a small independent cinema screen. Yeah. You know, where it's like half the size of a regular cinema screen, because that is a smaller, more intimate film. Oppenheimer, almost purely for that one sequence, needed, and that's the crowning glory, really. And a lot of it is the sound design, but that needs to be the biggest screen, the biggest sound system possible.
And this is obviously, I mean, I wasn't lucky enough to see it on an IMAX screen, but it's his love of the IMAX formats, you know, and having these standout moments that would make the most of that. And it's like it's a tall scene, isn't it? You know, it's it's making you kind of cast your eyes skyward, and you kind of this kind of godlike power towering over you, you know.
There's also the John Ford vistas of New Mexico, like. Oppenheimer is probably my top one, but I'll go number 2, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour, because it feels like you're in the concert.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that is the definitive version of that concert experience. You know, if you go and sit like way up high, pay thousands of dollars, it's going to be a bad view. You watch it on a cinema screen or eventually your big TV screen at home, like, it's a great way to see the concert and not have to shell out a ton of cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would have gone Oppenheimer, although Mission Impossible is a decent shout as well.
All right. Well, and then we have our own 3 underrated or underdiscussed or I don't know, something movies. Just the 3 movies we picked. Because maybe D&D was discussed. I don't know. I barely remember April. So I guess let's go chronologically. Sam, talk to us about, you reviewed Dungeons & Dragons for the Film Magazine.
I did. You can check out my review, my full review on the site. Before this year, I wouldn't say I was a D&D guy. I'd never played it before. I kind of knew what it was. I kind of knew by cultural osmosis, but through things like Stranger Things. But then this year, the double bill of this and then playing Baldur's Gate 3 a lot this year as well. It's kind of brought me around. Quite a bit of the lore and stuff now. But this was a real pleasant surprise for me. And I like the directors. I like the previous film. I like Game Night. You know, the good kind of comedy action directors. But this kind of it's like a combination of kind of the charismatic cast, quite a witty script, I thought, and momentum doesn't really kind of die down, and it doesn't really over-explain its world either. It kind of just plonks you in there and it kind of lets you kind of work it out and put it together from context, which was kind of a bit refreshing. I don't think it takes its audiences as kind of too much for granted, really. And it's got a great cast, all kind of top of the game, Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez and Hugh Grant, all these kind of people just doing what they do really, really well, just really entertaining ways. I quite the idea that Dungeons and Dragons as a game, as a role-playing game, is so much about how you tell a story and kind of what information to kind of drop in at a key point and kind of how to make it kind of as engaging as possible. And so much of the film comes down to... It
surprises me you don't like DM games.
Like, I just never kind of been... I know all friends of mine that have done it. I've just... been doing other things or just not had the clique for long enough to kind of go in and do it. Just never done it. And I will say I watched the film today for this because I knew this was your pick. And it's one of those ones where it's like, it's not perfect, but it is a decent family adventure. Magic, bit of fun here and there. It's light-hearted. There's nothing.
It's a good time in the movies. I mean, what I was just going to say is so many exposition in films can be difficult, because it can really like weigh down a scene and kind of just stop the film dead and just. But I think generally they get around it. I think they do it quite elegantly. And if it is someone explaining something, there's a point to it. It's almost like it's them, almost in character, trying to pull one over, like because basically they're a gang of scoundrels. They're embellishing their own tales, and it's kind of bringing the idea of storytelling into the medium of the film and how it's told, which I thought was quite clever. And this is one of the very few kind of big budget blockbusters that kind of made me want to go straight back in afterwards and spend a bit more time with those characters. I'd love to see like several sequels with them because I just think they're a real good time to be around. Unfortunately, probably not going to get that because this cost 150 million and it's barely made 200 million back.
Yeah,
so.
That was surprising for me, like how little it made.
I think Paramount have made a few blunders this year, to put it mildly. This, I think they almost just sent this one off to die. I think they released it at end of March and just very little fanfare. I mean, obviously there were trailers and stuff, but I think they could have done more of the marketing and kind of let people know it was there. It was. I mean, a lot of people say they should have saved this for the summer. For maybe either just before or just after Mission Impossible. Just there's a gap.
But then you got the thing of around there. You had a run. Mission Impossible, Indiana Jones, Barbie, Oppenheimer, John Wick 4 came out a couple of months before that, you had a massive run there, but the amount of people in it, the amount of interest there is in D&D, I think a lot of it actually is from Stranger Things, or at least of making it socially acceptable to play kind of thing. I'm surprised that either that or they should have just filmed it for like 100 mil. 150 mil seems excessive.
Maybe. I mean, I think what they've said is, it's not definitely dead. They may do something else with it, either another film or like a miniseries or something, following some of the characters. But it would be on a tighter budget, which might necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, you get fewer like chunky dragons in it and like shape-shifting kind of creatures and stuff. But that maybe will force them to be a bit more creative and do something generally different and kind of entertaining with it. So that's not necessarily bad. I think a lot of people will discover this on streaming. I presume it'll be on Paramount Plus now because it's Paramount Picture. So hopefully a lot of people, it might become a bit of a cult favorite in a few years' time. You never know.
And again, the one thing that we don't know, obviously, is the returns from things like DVD sales, from rental, from the sales to streaming services and things like that. Yeah. Those don't go on to stuff like Box Office Mojo. So when they say it made this amount, that's what it made at the box office, all the ancillary media and stuff like that, and to TV rights as well. There's millions involved in kind of selling its TV channels for showing and things like that. So, they'll make the money back somehow. But
yeah.
Kieran, by the way, I didn't see yours, Sam, so I have nothing to add. Other than if I ever play with Greg's Baldur's Gate 3 character again, I'm going to eat him. Sam, did you have something else there?
No. Just generally, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a good time. The movies.
To quote, is it Jeremy Johns' old rating system? It's a good time, no alcohol required.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kieran, time for you to get us put on a list somewhere.
Yes.
Tell us about your movie.
It's a great name, isn't it? How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which is apparently based on
It's provocative.
A book of the same name, which is called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Which, according to Wikipedia, argues that sabotage is a logical form of climate activism and criticizes the pacifism and climate movement. Essentially, it's a bunch of young people who kind of get together and decide that, corporations are polluting the planet. We're all going to die. So what we're going to do, we're finally going to take action and we're going to make a explosive and we're going to go to a big oil pipeline in Texas and blow part of it up. As an act of sabotage, and it's obviously incredibly left wing climate activism kind of film. The characters work. A lot of that side that isn't why I liked it. I liked it because it genuinely there are moments where it's like, this is actually really well done purely for tension. And it's a well-directed, small indie film. And when I saw it I saw a trailer for it in the cinema. I don't know where I was watching, but I'm like, I will get round to seeing that. And I missed it when it was in cinemas, and it went on to Netflix. And so I watched it on Netflix. And this is why I was saying earlier that some of these films do get a second life. Yeah. I'm upset that I didn't get to go to see it in the cinemas, but I'm glad I caught it after. It's sort of an hour 40. And it's just really nice, really tense, really short, not short, but quite contained. There's a couple of characters that are fun. There's not much lightheartedness, but it's just really well done, really well shot, put together, little thriller. There's some bits at the end, there's some crossing back and forth plot reasons that, it's not 100%, but it is very tense in parts, and there are some sequences that are really good. And when I was kind of looking through my list, I went, yeah, I remember actually thinking that is a very good film. So How to Blow Up a Pipeline, try not to get done by the FBI for searching it up. But
I think
it's a really nice small film.
50% of our audience cannot be done in by the FBI. You'd have to watch out for the CIA, though.
Yeah,
the CIA, MI5, Men in Black.
I've just checked. It is back on Netflix if you want to check it out. I mean, I've not seen it, but I think I will add it to my list now because it does sound interesting.
Again, normally when I'm watching a film, I mean, I normally don't go for it for any kind of emotional engagement. I do it for how well is the story told and the craft of the storytelling aspect rather than kind of emotional connections, which is possibly one of the reasons why, all these great directors and whatever, even like Scorsese, I appreciate the films, but I don't emotionally connect with it because almost that's not what I'm watching the films for, and things like that. This is one of the films where it's like, I don't connect with it emotionally, but from like a craft element of just tension building, it's really, really nicely done. Just from the simple premise of we're going to blow up a pipeline, you're going to get the tension, and it strings it out. There are some sequences that are really good, and it goes on for a good, sort of most of the movie, the little bit at the end of everything cleaning up. It's nice and short, and I'm glad it got onto a platform where some people might see it. It got, I think it's only sort of like 60 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. It's not as just checking on Wiki at least. It's got it nicely on Rotten Tomatoes. There's other films that were worse than I thought it would have got. Because I was also thinking if I wasn't going to do this, I'd do possibly Cobweb, which is an underrated little horror film with Lizzie Kaplan, who's great performance, and that was down. But yeah, How to Blow Up a Pipeline, actually I'm now seeing it is at 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and so it should be because it's a very well done little thriller.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's one I will definitely have to check out. And by the way, Kieran, I am kind of struck by your description. You don't watch movies for the emotional aspect of filmmaking. So do you want to delve into that a little further?
I kept getting called a sociopath at university, and maybe this is the case. I think maybe it's just because I've done so much of like analyzing storytelling academically, and I'm still doing it academically, that I almost come at it from an academic viewpoint. When I'm watching a film, it is more for the craft and the storytelling ability and how well it's directed, rather than when people go like, "Oh, this is a great film, but I didn't really buy the characters' chemistry." I'm like, do you not? Did they have chemistry? Did they not? I don't really care. I'll say if I think the performance was good or not, but it's not from a can I connect to it. It's I think they acted badly.
Yeah. So I'm on the other extreme sometimes when my general rule of thumb is if the film doesn't make me cry, I can't give it 5 stars.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you have to, especially if you're like a massive kind of horror kind of analytical side as well, that you have to do that because it's like, oh, I didn't jump 5 times at a horror movie, therefore it's awful, and you kind of have to disassociate with stuff like that. But that's just me, and that's how I approach films, which is probably why, people like Tarantino and Villeneuve and Nolan and Scorsese and that, and everyone goes, oh, there's a great movie ever, the greatest characters ever, and all these things. I'm just like, I don't connect to it on, and when it does connect, I go, that's
See, for me, it's analyzing the craft that makes me emotionally connect. So whenever, if it's well directed, it's probably going to have something in it that makes me go, oh my God, I love what they just did there. Like, even just like really good lighting, I could just be like, oh my goodness, I really feel something from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I don't connect with characters, but I'm less likely to like a film because, I'm more likely to go, I'm going to watch this film because, or give it a better rating because when I'm watching it going, that shot was just gorgeous, that was right, it felt correct, over something like where nothing's there, but like, I don't know, there's a really good bit where I connected emotionally with a character or something like that, I'm just looking for different things. I mean, I will take connecting with a character and it feeling good from a universal standpoint and all that, but my eye is on different things.
Yeah, so I guess sort of moving from that into Priscilla, it is a movie that could definitely connect you emotionally to maybe not Kieran, but other audience members, to maybe someone who isn't in the popular sort of zeitgeist these days. Sam, did we talk a bit about how Elvis is not popular back when we did that, whatever the Elvis mummy movie was, Bubba Hotep?
Hotep, yeah. I mean, Elvis has come a few times on our podcast, hasn't it? Yeah,
I was going to say, we did Love Me Tender as well.
Yeah.
Yes, Elvis has Love Me, yeah, which I don't think to be able to release that one. I don't know. But yeah, we've talked about it a few times, yeah. And obviously you had the Baz Luhrmann take on it, which my understanding, obviously, not having seen this, is this like the anti-Baz Luhrmann Elvis, basically, just shattering that the mythos and the illusion.
Admittedly, I haven't seen the Baz Luhrmann Elvis as well, and the reason I didn't go to see it is because I didn't trust the trailers, because I remember Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, perfect.
And that is the reason why I didn't go and see Elvis, even though people are going, this is actually a genuinely good movie. I'm just like, I remember Bohemian Rhapsody. This is another biopic that's going for Oscars a few years after.
It's so much better than Bohemian Rhapsody, not as good as Rocket Man. That's where I put it in my film.
I also have not seen Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, so I don't know. I would presume that it's the anti-Elvis, but I mean, I don't want to center the film on Elvis because it's called Priscilla, but it's from her book Elvis and Me. So it's tough not to discuss the movie without talking about the Elvis part of it because he's the big figure. He's vital to the
Elvis
story.
In the room.
Yes, thank you. Yes, the Elvis in the room of it all. This movie could be called Elvis Sucks. So there's one aspect of it that she wrote in her book about a harsh sexual encounter she had with Elvis right before they got divorced. She clarified later that it was not rape. It was just very aggressive sex. The movie portrays it that way. When I've been sitting here reading these 1-star reviews, and they're like, the film portrays Priscilla as this pampered, privileged girl, and it's slandering Elvis. That nobody can corroborate whether or not it's true. And it's like, guys, have we learned nothing the last few years? So I knew nothing. Pretty much I know Elvis was a guy who wrote songs and was in some movies. I learned a lot about Elvis's career because of this movie. I didn't know he stopped pretty much being a musician in the 60s and was only a film star making musicals. I had no idea, which explains why he kind of fell off. He was just making a bunch of crap. So that's what this movie is mostly about. So they met when she was 14. Didn't know that. So that right away, like everything this movie is about to say, I buy it as true because it's about a guy who married somebody who he met at 14 when he was 24.
I only knew that fact because of Epic Rap Battles of History.
There you go. So she's 14 when she meets Elvis. She waits a couple years. He dates Nancy Sinatra or somebody like that. Who knows? And then he phones her up and he's like, hey, Priscilla, you're 16 now? Cool. I'm going to fly you to Graceland. And so she goes to Graceland. They go on he gives her a sleeping pill that puts her to sleep for 2 days. and then takes her on a 2-week trip to Las Vegas, where she may be 17 here. I don't know. She's underage. She is given alcohol, drugs. She's gambling. It's a crazy time. Like, so even though Elvis is being really nice to her and he's like, baby, we can't have sex. I can do better. I'll pull a better one out later. Like there's aspects to it that you can look at it and go, okay, I mean, I get she is having a good time. She may not regret this. This is her experience. But what he is doing, I can look at and go, yeah, this guy sucks. Elvis, not a great dude. He's introducing a teenager to drugs and then flies her to Graceland to live with him. He's going to send her to a Catholic high school so she can graduate. And if she keeps her grades up, she can keep living with Elvis. It's really it's not treated romantically. It's not romanticized, but that aspect of it, I mean, it plays that way because it fits into Priscilla's perspective. But like, obviously, as it goes on, Elvis gets worse. Elvis kind of has a moment where his temper flares up and he hits her. There's one where his temper flares up and he throws a chair at her. He's gone for weeks at a time. So she's just alone at Graceland, like wandering around with her dog, being bored. Both the actors that are incredible. Like Priscilla has a very subdued role because she's a teenager coming into like the biggest pop star's world. And like she nails it goes from 14 to like 28 or something. So half of her life. And both like visually and with attitude, she portrays that Priscilla really well. It kind of shows her arrested development because of the situation that she was brought into, like the privacy. Elvis told her at one point, like, forget about having a career. You can have a career, or you can have me. When you're a teenager and a super rich pop star that you listened to before you knew him tells you that, you know, what are you going to think? What are you going to do? I mean, we probably all end up doing what she did and basically becoming a prisoner in Graceland to somebody much older than her, which is super weird. He finally married her in 1967 when Tom Hanks forced him to, or told him it would be a good idea. Because I haven't seen the movie, I learned later that was Tom Hanks when he sang the Colonel. Yeah. But like it's about Priscilla's perception of all that, so we don't get full explanations of like, here's who this is. We meet his grandma. We meet this like little sisterhood network, including his like black nanny and stuff like that. Which like there's another undertone thing. She's like the only black character in the movie. It shows like what was his atmosphere like. It has the Memphis Mafia all hanging around him. So there's that strong masculine presence versus a single girl by herself who is a teenager / early 20s. Most of it, she's a teenager. And like there's this scene where they go Pretty Woman her. It's like that scene in... This movie is so much like Marie Antoinette. It's like that scene in Marie Antoinette where she's trying on dresses.
The shopping spree.
Yes, but it's Elvis and the Memphis Mafia and her. And they're like, I don't like that on you. I don't like this. Ooh, there's a good number, you know, and it's weird.
I wonder if there could be any possible connection between this film and Marie Antoinette. I wonder if maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the same director or something like that.
Well, you know? I would think that no one really does that kind of thing better than Sofia Coppola, really, in terms of like a woman kind of trying to kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time, forced to be kind of in a place, you know, against the will, and basically trying to liberate herself and kind of break free in some regards, you know.
Yeah,
I think you know, so that's one of her specialties. I think, you know, portraying that.
Yeah, that like because of her upbringing, you know, she has an understanding of that more privileged atmosphere, and you know. Because she's taking on like the side of that character who's coming into it being controlled. You know, she gives like a not, you know, Marie Antoinette was rich when she went there, but like, I wouldn't say she was privileged. She was a second-class royal person. She doesn't get to make decisions. She doesn't get to let them eat cake, which she didn't say. But yeah, so Priscilla is an even more extreme version of Marie Antoinette, where they're not close in age. They have such different life experiences. She is like every aspect of her life is being controlled. He tells her how to do her hair. Everything revolves around him, and she is just supposed to be the woman. And yeah, so that's pretty much where I was bringing it to. Is it's a lot like Marie Antoinette, but it has this.
And if it is a lot like Marie Antoinette, then I'm probably well up for it. I mean, I'm kind of, again, I'm a bit agnostic on some of Sofia Coppola's films, but I love Marie Antoinette, and I think if it's kind of a piece with that, then I think I'd probably very much enjoy it.
I need to finish.
I don't think it's out in the UK yet, or if it is, it's a very limited release.
Yeah, it's available. It's available on Mubi in January, I think. So
it comes January 5th, 2024. Which will explain
limited
partially,
here too.
Yeah, which will explain partially why it's sat at number 100 this year on the box office. They'd only just over 20 million.
Yeah, and so her, what is it? Just the aesthetic that she uses, which it's similar to the one in Marie Antoinette. It's got the music, it's very particular, but I think it fits with this movie more because the modern music, or not modern, but it has Crimson and Clover in there. That song hadn't been released in the 60s, but it's this cover version that really fits the tone of the film, fits the era that it's taking place in. It doesn't have Elvis songs, but it has I forget what it's called. There's some Hawaiian sounding song that they get married to. So her filmmaking touches to this movie just make it really, it's beautiful. It's really well made in its craft. There's a bowling alley or not bowling alley, sorry, skating rink. They're both dead anyway. A skating rink scene with all of the, it's the neon, Kieran, but it's toned down. It's not as saturated. And they're pretty much in shadow, having a really good time. And it's such a fun scene. I like watching characters in her movies just kick back and have a nice little montage. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend seeing it if you're into Sofia Coppola, if you're into good biopics. And if you want to learn more about Elvis, the other side, not the guy wearing silly suits and dying on the toilet from too many drugs and peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Yeah. It was one of those ones that kind of, I knew it was a thing, and I'm like, if I get the chance to see it, I will, if I'm around, I will check it out. But know that it comes out next year. I can technically watch it, and it counts as a 2024 release for me.
Y'all always use that in your top 10s. You're like, here's a 2022 movie that didn't release in the UK, and I'm like, no, it doesn't count.
Okay, then, but if it's the only releases that was shown at a film festival in 2022, but got a general release in 2023, where do you class it?
2022.
Yeah, where do you class it?
When was it first screened publicly, exhibited? 2022? It's 2022, but it's fine.
It had a general release in 2023, that's when I'll go for it.
Fair enough. And
we're getting... Yeah, go ahead.
The one other scene that really sticks out to me is her walking to that, the aggressive sex scene. That's the scene or the event that made her finally divorce him. She walks down this it looks like that scene in Insidious where they're going to the red door. It's just very red, saturated. It's obvious that something terrible is about to happen. And then she finally leaves him at the end, and the movie just ends, and she's gone. It does not go into her life after. It's just leaving Elvis, and that's it. She has a bright future ahead of her. Yep.
There we go.
That's it.
Yep.
So where are we rating 2023 in cinema?
What, in comparison to other recent years?
I don't know.
Well, it means 2020. Let's be honest.
Give it a rating out of 10.
8.
8.
So it was pretty good. Some great movies out. Some interesting events, and yeah, I think we're possibly on. We're kind of on a precipice, I suppose. I think soon the streamers and the studios are going to have to decide kind of what the future of the film industry looks like. I think changes in the air, so we'll have to see.
It'll languish in awkwardness for another couple decades. Yeah. One of those two.
I was going to say, I think one of the major things of this year for cinema has been the strikes.
Yeah.
That have gone on, and it is obviously yet to be seen what influence they will have. But
I do hope it's an indicator that
they have,
that they kind of realise that they can't keep pulling so much kind of egregious crap. Basically, it's like that. Something's got to give at some point, and I do hope that. That has kind of left an impact. Well, obviously, it's left an impact. There's hardly any major releases for next year now because things have had to be delayed. But I
mean, it's always been going on. I mean, is it one of the writers of Men in Black reckons that according to who are the distributors of Men in Black? Is it Paramount or something like that?
Yeah, Warner Brothers. Somebody.
It's Sony, I believe.
But apparently, he still gets a statement. This was a couple of years ago, but he still, at least a couple of years ago, used to get a letter through the post every 6 months telling him that Men in Black are still in the red, therefore he doesn't get any royalties.
Yeah, I think that's a lie. I just think it is.
I'm going to give it an incomplete because I have not seen enough movies.
I mean, and obviously, there's still stuff to come out. We've still got stuff like Maestro. We've still got stuff like Ferrari. Thing The Heron, whatever it's the Miyazaki movie hasn't come out yet. And there's other stuff, things like is it Poor Things that hasn't had a wide release yet. That are clamoring for
that. Go check it out.
Yeah, that are clamoring for essentially, a lot of the Oscar bait still isn't out yet. Essentially, in the kind of wide release, so some stuff is still up in the air. And for me, I mean, I'd probably give it maybe a 7 in total. There is some really good stuff.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that was middling, even Scream 6 for me. Wearing my Ghostface t-shirt, but it's like.
Yeah, I think there were more movies I unreservedly loved last year, but obviously we're not quite through it this year, so it may change, But,
and
I think pretty good
at the same time, there were the odd one or two absolute stinkers. Looking at you, Assassin Club. Looking at you, Exorcist Believer.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to support workers in the streaming / making video industry, you can go to our PayPal below and donate, or you could go to the Redbubble store, support the film magazine. We had a bigger year than 2023 in terms of visitors, so go push that number up. Go read our 2023 reviews and all that. We'll have best movies of 2023 coming out in the near future. So go do all that. You can also, whatever we say, follow us. I'll get to you guys in a second. I realize I skipped that now. You can follow us at Second Cut Pod. Email us at secondcutpod@gmail.com. Follow us Second Cut Podcast if we're somewhere else. Go listen on Spotify. Guys, where can people find you online?
This order probably works better doing the promo first, doesn't it?
Possibly.
You can find me at SSP Thinks Film at the Film Magazine, where I've ranked all of Terry Gilliam's films, and I've just updated my big Ridley Scott list as well to include Napoleon. So check that out. Spoiler alert, it's somewhere in the middle of that list.
And it's only on one screen.
Yes, it's only on one screen.
And he watched it on his phone.
Yes. For me, hopefully you don't find me. If you do, I'm K Judgmental across the various places. For Film Magazine, I think the only thing I've had up since last week is a review of the new film on Shudder, new Christmas holiday slasher movie called It's a Wonderful Knife. If you can't guess the references there, it's exactly what you think it is. So go check that one out.
Yep, you can follow me at Jacob Film Guy, where, I don't know, there's something or nothing. I don't know. Follow me at Jacob Film Guy. that is it.
Next week, we'll make him write down what he's got.
Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Adios.